Hi, Casey. What brings you in today?
Hi, BB. So I have been stressing out a little bit because I recently discovered that my ex boyfriend stole some of my belongings the night we broke up, and I'm not sure whether or not I should reach out to him to get them back.
That's terrible. I'm really sorry that he took those things from you. How did you kind of feel when you found out that he stole from you?
Upset and just really angry, and I felt kind of like violated and betrayed just because when he stole them from me, he came into my home before I got home. So he was someone that I felt I could trust to be there alone without taking my stuff.
I can understand feeling really betrayed about that. How when did he steal them in relation to when you guys broke up?
So he stole them the night that we broke up, which happened back in February. So it's been over half a year now. Um, but I didn't find out until fairly recently.
Okay, that's understandable. How are you feeling now about the breakup?
I feel okay about the breakup. I think I resent him and I'm still angry over how he left things, and I resent him as a person for stealing my stuff and what he put me through. But in terms of like the feelings, any residual feelings after the breakup, I'm pretty clear with that. I feel okay with that.
It seems like you're kind of wanting to close this chapter of your life,
Yes, exactly.
and getting your stuff back would kind of help to close that chapter.
That's, I think, the last thing before I can finally close it would be getting my belongings.
So, have you tried any strategies already to go about getting your stuff back?
Um, Not really. I can't really reach out to him because he blocked me on everything. So the communication just isn't there at all. We have a couple mutual friends that I've kind of like publicly sent out some feelers to, like, hey, if anyone still talks to him, please let him know to get my stuff back. But that wasn't really effective. So I'm still torn on possibly having to take it into my own hands.
So, it seems like you really want to get this stuff back, but at the same time, you don't want to open that door to have to communicate with him again.
Exactly.
So, what is the value of these things to you? Are they things that you could live without, or are they things that you really feel like you need?
I think at the end of the day, if I had to, I could live without them, but they're very sentimental to me because it's a video game and a controller and a cord and an adapter and stuff. And the cord and adapter are very useful just in general, even though I could replace those. But the game and the controller are something that were a gift to me when I was a little kid. And like my favorite Christmas present and everything when I was like 5. So that's really, even if I do replace it, it's expensive to replace, and the sentimental value behind that, it's just not the same as if I were to buy a new one.
So, it sounds like the main driving reason for reopening that communication is to regain that sentimental value of those things.
Yeah. And I think too, this might sound a little petty, but I almost, after what he put me through, don't want him to also have the satisfaction of having my things. It's like a principle thing. Like, I feel so violated. How could you hurt me like that and also take my things? I just don't want him to get away with that.
That's understandable. You described feeling pretty violated by the fact that he took your things.
Mm-hmm.
So let's talk a little bit. How do you feel about just having to communicate with him to get those things back?
I feel nervous because it's hard because I don't like to swallow my pride when it comes to breakups. So I kind of just cut them off. I don't want to address it. I don't want to look like the girl who goes back to her ex. And even though I know in my heart that I'm over it, I'm afraid that other people will kind of see and be like, she's the crazy girlfriend or crazy ex-girlfriend looking for an excuse to come back. And I also don't want him to think that I'm looking for an excuse to open that communication up again. So it kind of makes me feel nervous, a little anxious.
You seem pretty concerned with how kind of other people will interpret you kind of opening up that line of communication. Do you think that's prevented you from trying to get those things back?
I think it definitely has. I think, especially with his new girlfriend and everything, I don't want to stir up trouble with that. I just wish it was an easy get in, get my stuff, get out kind of thing. And I fear that that just wouldn't be the case.
Do you think there are some ways that we could make this easier for you?
I think possibly getting someone else involved, as much as I would love to do it myself, might help, just so he doesn't see it as me trying to come back and find an excuse to talk to him. So I've been thinking about that.
So you said that you had put out multiple feelers to friends about kind of seeing if anybody communicated him. Did you find that anybody had still communication with him?
There are a few people who I think still communicate with him a little bit, but not enough to be willing to intervene. I had one friend reach out to him, and she did confirm that he took the controller. He admitted to her that he did, but he never said that he was ever planning on giving it back.
Mm-hmm.
So I did try that, but it just nothing came from it. So I'm wondering, my mom really wants to get involved.
And is it a possibility to have your mom become involved?
Yeah, I don't think he blocked her. I'm not entirely positive, just because I haven't tried to communicate with him on her phone, but I don't think that he would do that. I think that he wouldn't really think to do that. So that could be an option.
So it sounds like we might have a way to communicate with him, but you still said that you were feeling pretty angry about opening that line of communication, correct?
Yeah,
So let's
I'm
talk
still, yeah.
ways we can kind of work through that anger. How do you feel just talking about it?
I feel nervous just talking about it, and the anger comes back because I feel like when I say it out loud, it feels more real, and I just want to put that behind me. So all the feelings come back, including the anger, once it's brought up again.
Let's talk about some relaxation strategies that you can use if you do decide to confront him. So I really recommend deep breathing, because then if you're communicating over the phone, it takes a few seconds. And once you do establish that communication, if you feel yourself getting angry and worked up, you can kind of use those deep breathing strategies to remember why you are talking to him. What do you think about that?
I think that could definitely work. I like that you suggested a deep breathing and remembering to focus on that, because I think that's something I struggle with. I get worked up in the emotions. So I think if I do just kind of focus on reminding myself that I'm only contacting him for my stuff, that could definitely help.
I think it's really important to remember why you're opening that line of communication. And it's not because you're still angry or resentful. It's because you want these things back. And once you get these things back, we can kind of close that chapter.
Exactly.
So let's talk a little bit about how you feel now that we've kind of talked through this a little bit, and how you feel kind of talking to him now.
I feel a little more confident talking about him. Or talking to him. I feel like it's definitely something I can at least try. Especially if I do get my mom involved, even just for moral support. Like if I use her phone to call him, um, that's something I could definitely consider. I feel a little bit better about it.
I think it'd be really good to have somebody there who can support you and who kind of understands the situation as it has unfolded and understands the problem that you're facing, and who can kind of help remind you that you're talking to him for a very specific reason, and that is to get these things back. Let's talk a little bit about how you'd feel if he declines giving you the things back, or if he declines opening that communication.
I am going to be very mad.
Yeah, I can understand feeling pretty upset about that.
Yeah.
What we can do is try and use that anger to motivate us towards either getting a new game or trying really to establish those lines of connection and kind of open up so that we can get those things back for you.
Yeah. I think the anger is something that's been pushing me to address it, because as much as I don't like feeling angry, when I think about it and I feel angry again, I kind of think like, okay, I really need to do this. I really need to confront him or get a game, but I don't want to do that.
Yeah. So, based on what we've talked about, where do you feel like really is going to be the best place to start in beginning this process of getting your things back?
I think the best place for me to start so far is just practicing what I'm going to say, and just reminding myself to stay almost like on script, just focus on what I'm going to say and prepare myself for that. And then just double check, make sure that I actually can communicate with him through my mom's phone.
And I think these are all great first steps and things that we can kind of practice going through in our next session. Thank you so much, Casey.
Hi, BB.
Hi, Casey.
What brings you in today?
So I've been having a lot of anxiety, just kind of trying to decide if I should or shouldn't move to Massachusetts.
Okay, so what are the reasons why you would be moving to Massachusetts?
I would be moving out there to be closer to school, and I think it would make some of my upcoming classes a lot easier. We're supposed to start practicum in this summer and then internship in this fall and spring, and I think it'd be really hard to find a site out here to do those things at. Also, I feel kind of isolated from everybody else. There are definitely conversations that go on in class or amongst my peers where I just kind of can't contribute to the conversation because they're all in Massachusetts. And I think it would just really help me feel kind of more like I'm actually in grad school and attending this school with these people. Because right now I kind of don't have that feeling of being part of the community.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Where are you living right now?
Right now I'm living in Texas. I have an apartment out here with my boyfriend, but our lease ends in May.
Okay, so what I'm hearing is you have until May to kind of make that decision.
Yeah, we were planning on renewing our lease since classes, it seems like, are still going to be online this summer and into the fall. But then I realized that I'm supposed to start practicum in the summer and that it would be kind of complicated with being here but trying to be in practicum.
That makes a lot of sense. So, what would your reasons for staying in Texas be?
Well, I've been living here for 5 years now, so I feel pretty comfortable living here. I'm pretty well established. I have friends out here. I have a job that I really enjoy doing out here. And I just kind of know the city. And then in addition, even though it's not my home state, I'm still technically closer to where my family is. It's still a 15-hour drive, but a 15-hour drive is better than a few days drive, which is what it would be if I moved to Massachusetts.
Yeah, that makes sense. So, how are you feeling about the possibility of moving somewhere very new?
There's definitely a lot of anxiety. I've never been to Massachusetts, so I don't have any sense of what the city is like. I have no, I mean, I've looked on a map where Assumption is, but it's kind of hard for me to like think about getting an apartment when I've never been to the area, or even explored it. I worry about not having very many friends there, or much communication with anybody there, just because classes are still online and they're going to be online likely this summer. So I won't like make those connections right away, like I did when I moved to Texas and went straight into class. Um, and just kind of the overall stress of moving and like the logistics of moving are pretty, they definitely make me anxious. But it's also exciting because I feel like I'm definitely excited to like live in a new place and like explore Massachusetts. I've never been to the East Coast, so I think it'd be really fun to be up there for a while and kind of get to experience something a little bit different from Texas.
That's awesome. So what I'm hearing is you don't want to experience being a little isolated from your peers or having that difficult long distance education, but at the same time, you seem a little apprehensive about having to leave your friends and your family and, the comforts of staying home in Texas.
Yeah, definitely. I just feel like there's a lot of pros and cons to both options. And so I just kind of, that's where I get a little lost.
Yeah. So, how do you feel about the possibility of renewing your lease and staying there?
So I feel like to me that would be the safest option. I could save money, I could stay where at my job, I wouldn't have to leave my friends. But at the same time, it makes me really nervous in regards to my education because I feel like my practicum experience, my internship experience might not be like the same or as good as everybody else's because I worry about either having to do it entirely virtually or struggling to find a site out here. But I also don't know like what degree my professors would help me with that.
So, I'm wondering if there's a way for you to feel a little more comfortable with your professors helping you with that.
I think it would definitely just be helpful to kind of like sit down and have an individual meeting with my professor to kind of ask like these are the problems I'm running into and what do you suggest, and just kind of seeing because I don't even know like all the information I have kind of about next semester and classes and such has come from group settings, and so I really don't even know kind of what they suggest because they're addressing the whole group and I'm one of the only students that's not there. So
Mhm.
kind of seeing, I guess it would be just be the easiest would be to talk to my professors.
Yeah. How do you feel about having to reach out to a professor to talk one on one?
A little anxious just because I don't know them very well and like I don't have like a very strong connection with them. But there are definitely a few professors that I feel like I could talk to and ask questions that can help.
That's good. That's definitely a good thing to consider. If there aren't any professors that you can reach out to, are there any ways you can think of that might help you feel more comfortable outside of talking to professors?
I think for some of the other things, like not school related, like just kind of like figuring out more about like living there, it'd be helpful to like talk to the couple friends I've made from class just to kind of see like what their opinions are on living there and what like the areas are like and the schools like and kind of see what they think about like because they're the people who could actually like visit the apartments.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I have a couple friends that would be willing to like check out an apartment for me and see kind of where it is and let me know because they have been there so they know like if it's a good neighborhood or not, whereas like I won't get that information from a map.
Yeah. It's good that you have those connections already. That's definitely important when you're moving somewhere so far.
Yeah.
Now, are there any, let's explore other ways other than hearing through friends that are possible for you to kind of get more of a feel for Massachusetts.
I think I would really want to take a trip out there, even if it's just for a week, just so that I can kind of explore around Worcester and Assumption and just kind of the areas around it. I feel like it would definitely help me feel more of a connection. And it like just kind of finding like little things, it kind of help eliminate the stress, like finding like a restaurant that I like and as dumb as it sounds, like a grocery store or a pharmacy, like just little things that, so like when I move, I'm like, oh, I know where these things are. And it's a little bit easier to move then.
Yeah, it sounds like just having a couple places or people that you're comfortable with can make a big difference for you.
Yeah, I think right now it's just that there's so much unknown about it. And like it's such a completely new space. And I don't know, I did that when I moved to Texas, but at the time, like I was in school and I was living on campus. So there was less to worry about in terms of finding everything because food was in the dining hall and I lived in a dorm. So it was really easy to make friends that way. And now it's just much more like up in the air.
Yeah. It seems like it's a big difference moving to Massachusetts versus when you moved to Texas.
Yeah, it definitely is. But I think visiting would definitely help. And like I have friends out there that I think I could have like help show me around a little bit or would help like be willing to like visit places with me to check out some apartments and stuff that could really help me out too.
Yeah. So, how are you feeling right now talking about all of this?
I'm feeling better than I did at the beginning just because I feel like I have some options that I can use in kind of like figuring out school and kind of figuring out like making a decision about the move.
Okay. So, one thing that I like to do when I am trying to make a big decision is making a pro and con list because that's something that can kind of help you visualize and really find that balance. I'm wondering if that's something that you'd be able to do.
Yeah, I think so. I have a lot of pros and cons kind of floating in my head, but I think it'd be easy to write them out and then I could look at them too.
Yeah, absolutely. That might be really beneficial for you. And if you do decide to move to Massachusetts, that's even something that you can maybe take with you. And that way you can kind of add on it. You can take away if you find anything, that was a fear of yours that might not be as big now that you're actually there and seeing it for yourself.
Yeah, I think it'd really be helpful to have that on a visit with me because then I can kind of see, okay, these were things I was worried about, but I don't actually have to be that worried anymore.
Yeah, I think that could definitely help. So we could start there if you'd like. For next session, you can bring in a pro and con list and we can reflect on that together and kind of weigh it out and see what the balance would be like.
Sounds good to me. Thank you.